Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Today's session with Career Map. Hi, Hugh and Bill, who dropped in a little chat hello in the chat box. You're joining us here today for Career Map session live with SSTG ShipSafe. I have my guests here, Tom and Steve, who I'll introduce to you in a moment. Before we start, I'm just going to go through a little bit of housekeeping. My name's Sharon Walpole from Career Map. Like I said, thank you for joining us. This session is being recorded, so if you want to see it again or share it, you can watch again on Career Map Live. I'll drop that link in the chat in a little bit. That means that we'll be able to see it again next week. Also, there is a chat box. There will be a Q&A after Tom and Steve give their presentations. So any questions you want, feel free to drop them in the chat in the meantime, and we'll scoop them up and answer everything we can towards the end. And you never know, they might pop up and chat to you while you're there as well. There will be two presentations. First one is from Steve Aberhart. Steve, you want to give a quick hello?
Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us. My name's Steve Aberhart. I'm the Recruitment Training Manager for SSTG.
Great, thank you. And Tom Mill.
Hello, everyone. My name's Tom or Thomas, and I'm a cadet with SSTG.
Great. Right, so I'm going to allow Steve to start his presentation. Me and Tom are going to pop off for now. Tom will follow up with another presentation. I'll be in the background collecting questions, and see you later for the Q&A. So, off you go.
Okay, everybody, I'd just like to show you a short video about SSTG, who we are, what we do, and then I'll do a short PowerPoint presentation.
SSTG is the UK's only non-profit making company specialising in marine recruitment and training. SSTG was started by shipping companies for shipping companies. We continue to identify and engage with the evolving and individual needs of our member companies as they respond to the dynamics of the maritime industry nationally and internationally. Our recruitment and training service is unrivaled in the support we give to officer trainees and in the close relationships we forge with our member companies. Recruitment. Selecting the best candidates available for every role. Our recruitment team have empathy with the expectations of our member companies and in matching the potential of candidates to the requirements of the role. Training management. Identify and implement the training requirements of our member companies. Organise and monitor training courses for the cadets recruited, delivered by accredited colleges and providers. Organisation of short course provision, STCW, OPITO, GWO, or any other form of required training. Organisation of any higher certificate training identifying the right course through thorough investigation of the candidate's prior achievement. Representation throughout the industry. We are in continual contact with all of the maritime industry's key decision makers. SSTG maintains close links with regulators and industry organisations such as Department for Transport, Maritime Coast Guard Agency, Merchant Navy Training Board, Chamber of Shipping, plus many more. Information, advice and guidance. SSTG maintains a full knowledge database containing information relating to all aspects of marine certification, qualification and training matters. We provide our member companies and their staff with advice and guidance on training options and comprehensive information on training, certification, tonnage tax and marine matters. Our financial management team works closely with our member companies to manage training costs within all of the necessary parameters. Claim any funding that is available for the courses. SSTG applies effective management accounting procedures, which include the provision of monthly fully itemised accounts. Our achievements. SSTG have recruited and trained 2,500 cadets, arranged and managed 25,000 short courses, arranged and managed 1,000 higher certificate courses. Our previous trainees are now the backbone of the maritime sector worldwide. Some of the roles: masters, chief engineers, ship superintendents, managing directors, all levels of ships management, college and university lecturers. One ex-trainee is now the harbour master for the Port of Southampton. The list is endless. For 42 years, we have strived to be a complete service to our member companies and look forward to continuing the partnership and trust we have built with you.
Well, thanks for watching that, and we'll come on to the companies that we represent who require cadets, normally in the months of September and January of each year. We've got container ships. Evergreen Marine UK is a particularly big company. Ferries, we operate with P&O and Sea Truck Ferries. We've got dredgers, 3 dredging companies, aggregate mining vessels, as I like to call them, tugs, cable laying company called Global Marine Services. We've got jack-up barges that go out to the wind farms, research vessels and tankers. We've also got offshore companies that go out to the wind farms, oil rigs and gas platforms, taking supplies to them facilities, and also as emergency response vessels. Some interesting facts about the Merchant Navy. We are an island nation, so 96% of the imports and exports are carried by sea. Very little goes by air. 98% of data cabling is laid by a particular company, Global Marine Services, of which Tom is a cadet with. Over 50 million people travel by sea each year on cruise liners. The maritime industry employs in excess of 250,000 people, and the maritime industry is the 3rd largest service sector in the UK. What do officers do? Engineer officers are responsible for the operation and maintenance of all machinery, from the main engine to complex computer control systems. And marine engineers will learn diverse skills to troubleshoot control circuits, overhaul diesel engines, and going forward, hydrogen engines, electric engines, and they are required at times to look at refrigeration units on reefer vessels. I'll show you a video of officer training for engineers next. Okay, that was a short video. I'm obviously doing short videos for the deck officers. Unfortunately, came up first. Electro-technical officers. These are quite new to the service. They've only been introduced training for about 20 years now. But as ships become more complex electronically and electrical, with more computer control systems, specialised engineers are now required. Electro-technical officers, shortened to ETOs. They work with state-of-the-art equipment and specialise on ships with passengers and the more complex research vessels and cable laying vessels again. I'll show you a short video of an ETO. Deck officers are responsible for the logistics on the ships, the safety of crew and passengers, the navigation, and again, they work with quite technical equipment. Deck officers will be the captain of the ship, and they're in charge of safety equipment, including lifeboats, firefighting equipment, and the general maintenance of the vessel. Is a short video about deck officer training. So that was the deck officer side of the business. The training. The training is taking part in a UK nautical college and on board ships. It's a sandwich course, sandwich-based course, starting at college, building your academic skills, then putting what you've learned at college into practice at sea, building the practical skills. Then you're back to college at phase 3, and you're going onward with your studies and exams. Phase 4, you're back at sea, completing the training record book and the remainder of the sea time required. Deck cadet officers need to train on the ship for 12 months minimum, and engineers, ETOs, for 8 months on the ships. Phase 5 is the final college phase and the completion of the academic studies. Short courses, which is the firefighting, first aid, personal safety techniques, when you see people getting in and out of life rafts. The final examinations. That will, at the college, that will be your academic qualifications. But to get onto the ships and become part of the Merchant Navy, you actually undertake an oral exam with an MCA, a Maritime Coastal Agency examiner. It's a chat about your training that you've done, and questions will be asked of you about what you would do in this sort of incident. If a fire started here, if you was an ETO, what would you do if this generator broke down? So there's training for that oral exam during phase 5. That will give you an unlimited Officer of the Watch certificate and an academic grade of either an HNC, HND, and foundation degree course, which will allow you to work on any ship in the world. So as I said, HNC, HND, the minimum grades are 9 to 4 or A to C before 2017. National grade 5, Nat 5s in Scotland, A to C. It must include maths, physics or a dual science, and English. To qualify for a foundation degree, you need 48 UCAS points in unspecified subjects, unless you're an engineer or wish to be an engineer and ETO candidate, and you will have to have studied maths or physics and get a good grade in them disciplines, normally around the C grade. For deck officers, the maths and physics is not required, but you do need the minimum HNC requirements, HND requirements. You can study in various colleges around the country. Most of are standalone nautical colleges such as Warsash, Fleetwood, East Coast College, Humberside, Glasgow College, Shetland. But there are exceptions to that. South Tyneside have a marine school, and that's where Tom is training. We'll be speaking later. And the 2 universities that are offering deck officer training only are Plymouth University and Liverpool. all the colleges have to be approved by the Merchant Navy Training Board and the Maritime Coastal Agency. The sponsorship package. There's a personal training allowance that's paid, and it varies from company to company. All your tuition fees are paid, although with universities there is a different model of sponsorship. Exam fees are paid. There is a uniform allowance paid. As you go into a nautical college, you are expected to wear uniform at all times. There is a medical that's required. It's called the Seafarers ENG1 Medical. That's paid for. And travel allowance is paid to and from the ships. And when you first start at college phases, at the beginning of each college phase and the end of each college phase, you are expected to claim that travel cost back. You're attending higher education, and the companies are paying for that tuition, as I say, except for the universities, whereas it's a different model. So, how do you apply? It takes about 15 minutes to complete an application form at SSTG, and you can do it on your mobile phone. The website to go to is there, www.sstg.org, or you can go straight to the application form using that link. Just some tips on the application form. It's set out in such a way that you should be able to fill it in quite easily. There's work experience, there's personal statement, why you want to join the Merchant Navy, what attracts you to going to sea, and hobbies and interests. The rest are pretty much tick box answers, yes or no. Hence, we've kept it as easy as possible. For more information, feel free to contact our offices. At the moment, we're not expected to go back to the office until next Monday, but you can phone up next Monday and there'll be somebody there to answer. You can still phone up at the moment, although we're working remotely, we are connected to all the phones. Or you could drop an email into recruitment@sstg.org and ask any question you wish. I'll be the person answering the questions. And believe me, there's no silly questions. If you've got something to ask, feel free to do so. Okay, I'm going to play the video now of two cadets that are talking about their training and about the Merchant Navy generally. And then Thomas will do his presentation after the video. Thanks for listening. And here comes the video.
The Merchant Navy is the trading of goods and movement of people. It's the commercial side to shipping.
I wanted to work at sea. I didn't know what kind of career exactly I wanted at sea. I knew you could work on yachts and other boats at sea, so I went along to different open meetings in different places, different colleges, and found this course through there.
The Merchant Navy is very important. People don't realise there's a high percentage of all goods coming into the country and out of the country are all transported by ship, because it's far cheaper to pay a ship to transport goods than it is to transport it by air or land.
It attracted me basically because all sorts of things really. It's the sea, yeah, definitely all the travelling is really good and different experiences I'm getting. So SSTG are an agency, a company which basically get you in touch with shipping companies like Saga, which can sponsor you throughout the cadetship.
SSTG helped me, they got me the company and they got me the job and they took me on. And any questions that I have with SSTG, are always happy to help.
SSTG have been in touch with me pretty much the whole time. They come to the college every phase I have at least once and go through things with me, make sure I'm happy, make sure everything I'm getting on well with everything and all my work. The first day I spent at sea, I was really excited and went straight up to the bridge and everything and got really stuck in straight away and got on with looking through different charts and stuff like that of where we were going. We were actually in Cape Town at the time, which was nice. So yeah, and I got shown around by different people and stuff and slightly nervous but excited mainly.
I started off with a 6 months introduction course and that breaks you into everything you'll be expected to learn in the whole course.
It's about 3 years long and at the end you will get your certificate competency and also depending on what route you take you can either get a HND, a higher national diploma or a foundation degree. SSTG are really good because they've helped me the whole way through. They've always been there. I know I can call them up whenever I need to or anything like that. They're also they've got really good relationships with all employers and colleges, and there's no false promises. You see exactly what you're going to get, so they always help you along and try and get you the best possible sponsorship you can. At the moment, I'm going to aim for captain and just see where it takes me, really.
In the end, I'd like to be chief engineer, but hopefully on tankers still. I enjoy working on tankers.
People should choose a career in the Merchant Navy because it's so diverse. There's so many different things to do, so many different job roles.
I like travelling, going all different places, meeting new people. I really do enjoy meeting new people and different places and that. And just seeing sights that you think that a lot of people would never ever see, and getting paid to do so.
They are actual cadets that were trained and they're now officers in the Merchant Navy, both of them. And I have interviewed them too and took them on as cadets. So they're not actors, they're actual cadets. I'd now like to hand over to Thomas, who will give his presentation. And thanks very much for listening to us.
Spot on. Thank you very much for that, Steve. Okay then, so my name's Thomas and I am a cadet with SSTG. I am going to give you a little PowerPoint presentation today and that should be coming up now. Spot on. Just to say before I start as well, I see there's a chat section in here and if there's any questions just throughout my presentation, it's not particularly long. But if there's any questions at all that you'd like to ask directly to me, I'll answer them at the end, and then the rest of the questions I'd imagine are going to be answered in the full Q&A. Okay, so let's get started. So as I said before, my name's Thomas Mill. I'm a foundation degree marine engineering officer cadet trainee, and I am studying at South Shields Marine School. So I'm in phase 3, which means I've been to sea once, but I'm going to get to that in a moment. So as Steve mentioned before, there is 5 phases in the actual course. So you've got phase 1, which is at college, and you've got phase 2 at sea, phase 3 at college, phase 4 at sea, and phase 5 at college. So I'm in phase 3 now, as I mentioned before, so I can only really talk up to there. And I'm going to dive a little bit into what you do in these actual phases. So my experience of the academic sections, before I actually got a cadetship, I came straight out of school with GCSEs, no A levels, and I went onto a course called the Level 3 Diploma in Maritime Operations, which is more commonly known as the Level 3 Pre-Cadetship. This is a college-run course and gives you enough UCAS points, which was mentioned on Steve's slideshow. This gives you enough UCAS points to actually get onto a foundation degree cadetship. So yeah, this gave me a solid foundation of the engineering mathematics that were to be expected of the full cadetship. A lot of questions that people ask before people get cadetships is, what does your maths need to be like? And what I always say is, there is quite a bit of maths in the course, but you don't need to be a genius if you put the work in, that's to say. So yeah, I'm going to dive a little bit more into the maths in just a moment. So phase 1 is your first phase. You come in, no idea about engineering. There's no problem at all, and you get thrown straight into the deep end with short courses, which is things like firefighting, enclosed space, first aid, ship security. Personally, for me, the firefighting was just honestly one of the most amazing experiences of my entire life, to be perfectly honest. It's the feeling that you get when you're doing things like this. It's just unmatched. It really, really is. Like, for example, the firefighting, I'll talk for that one because that was my favorite. It's a 3-day course, which you go to a centre, which in South Shields it's called Most, which is where I'm studying. And it's just on the river, and you go down and you have 2 days of learning in a classroom, learning all about your BA sets, learning how to don them and how to be comfortable in them. And then for your first exercise, you get something called a cold smoke exercise, which consists of you going into a building from the very top, and the building's full of cold smoke, which is sort of it's like a generated vapor from a machine. So you can get the idea of not even being able to see your hand in front of your face, without the aggression, if you like, of a real fire, which is brilliant. You know, you get the trust in your BA set, and it just works so well. And you learn that your communications are so vital. And you do all sorts of things like that. And then in the last day, you actually have a hot fire experience. So you go in as a team of 4, again from the top of a building, and you've got to put out a fire at the bottom. And you've got to get stuck in, but it really is. It's great fun. The adrenaline rush that you get is absolutely unmatched. After you've done all of these things, you do what's called a PAO, which is it's a start to the actual mechanical side of things. So you get experiences on lathes, you get experiences in welding and fitting, and all of these types of daft little skills that just come in handy on a ship. So you do that, and then comes the academic section, which you do things like electrical principles and power, engineering mathematics, and then we also did something to do with like studies in the maritime industry. As for the electrical side of things, I was very, very surprised of how useful it came in on ship, actually. With ships now getting more and more electrics in them, my ship, I'll get into that in a moment, but I was diesel electric, so it was nice to be able to know things like what a bus bar is, what a distribution system is, and you can really click when you're at sea with the stuff that you've learned in phase 1. And then engineering mathematics, again, you're learning some pretty complex mathematics like calculus, Laplace theory, other general useful maths, but this is all catered towards what you're going to be doing in phase 3, the sort of the more useful elements of maths rather than just pure maths. So yeah, that brings me to phase 3. You're using the pure maths that you've learned in phase 1 to put it into practice for lessons like mechanics, thermodynamics, the electrical and electronic principles, which is a little bit more in depth. There was quite a few people when we did the Laplace theory specifically. You were sort of asking maybe questions like, oh, when are we going to be using this? And then you come back in phase 3 after you've been to sea, and you're actually using these transforms, if you like, to help you in your actual mechanics, thermodynamics, and all that type of thing. This is, of course, a big undertaking. There's no hiding that, but it's made a lot more manageable through the help of the fantastic lecturing staff. If you stay on top of your work and if you put the effort in, they will give you it back times 1,000. There's at my college, there's tutorial sessions on a Thursday with my mechanics teacher, Ian Robinson. after college, where you can ask any question, because really when you're doing subjects like this, no question is a daft question really, as long as you put the work in. And just the teachers, they really do, they go above and beyond to help you. So C, the good fun bit. My first trip, I went to Japan, the Philippines, China, Hong Kong, went to Taiwan as well, and oh, what an experience. So I work for a company called Global Marine, or I should say I have a cadetship with a company called Global Marine, and I was on that ship in the top right corner called the Cable Retriever, and we worked in the South China Sea, repairing cables, international telecommunication cables, the fiber optics. And it was genuinely one of the best experiences of my life. I'll absolutely never forget it. I went away when I was 17, so quite young, and you can see there, how many 17-year-olds have stood in Kaohsiung, Taiwan. That video that Steve had at the start, where it says where are you going to wake up tomorrow morning, it sums it up perfectly. I remember being away, and I FaceTimed my dad, and I was up on deck. And we were in the port of Kaohsiung in Taiwan, and I remember him saying to us, he was like, "Oh, so where are you now?" Sort of having a bit of a joke, like, "Oh, goodness knows where you were." And I said I was in Kaohsiung, Taiwan, and it really just made it all real. Of wow, what a life I've got. It absolutely is. It's brilliant. It is hard work, especially when you're on jobs. You can be doing up to 12-hour shifts because you've got rotating watches, but the work that you're doing, it is so diverse. There's so much that you're actually doing. You're not just sitting in an ECR or an engine control room. When I was on the ship, we were doing main engine overhauls on one of our 5 Wärtsilä 9R32 engines. We did a full main engine overhaul of engine 2, which took a whole month. And the ship that I was on anyway, like all of the officers and everyone, it was quite a big crew. We had 60 crew. They really get you stuck in. As long as you're happy to get stuck in, there's so much going on. Another big misconception of just engineers is that we only work on the engines, and there's so many systems going into a ship, especially when you start talking about ships with more crew, or especially like cruise ships. These ships are like small towns, and if you think of everything that's in your house that keeps it running, you've got it on a ship. The refrigeration systems for all of the food that you're keeping. You've got umpteen systems that go into the engine, like the jacket water cooling. You've got the bilges. You've got the lube oil. You've got the fuel oil. You always got something new and something interesting going on, whether it be overhauling a purifier. There's just a lot going on. But yeah, and again, just the experience. I mean, how many 17-year-olds can say that they've driven lifeboats around Subic Bay? It's brilliant. So the college facilities. At my college in South Shields, there is a halls of residence. I can't personally talk for how the halls of residence actually is, because I haven't lived there, because I'm local. But I've got a quote from one of my friends at college who's also on the foundation degree, and he said that halls of residence are a brilliant facility as travel to college doesn't even need to be thought about because it's literally on your doorstep. So if you're thinking of needing to move, you've got halls, which is brilliant because of course you're with so many other people who are in the same shoes as you, and you really bond together. You've got brilliant plant and machining and welding workshops, which, I mean, in the plant workshop especially, you've got systems like purifiers, you've got systems like just about anything really. You've like emergency bilge systems that you can afford to make mistakes when you're learning. No one's perfect. When you're learning and understanding how systems work, you do get things wrong, and the plant shop is there to sort of pick up a little bit from your mistakes and go, right, you can make a mistake here. That's no problem. So you're not going to make that same mistake on the ship. And it's nice to be able to get that experience first rather than learning the hard way. And there's just brilliant all-round support, as I mentioned before, with tutorial sessions and things like that. So yeah, so thank you very much for listening. I'll have a look in the chat quickly to see if there's been any questions. Okay, so we've got, what has been the most challenging part for you so far? For me, the most challenging part when it really comes down to it, I haven't found anything particularly challenging to where it's been unmanageable. I've been really enjoying my time. If I had to really choose something, it would probably be just the fact that you do have to put a lot of effort in, but that's given, you know, and you get back what you put in, really. So yeah, thank you very much.
Hi everyone, we've got quite a lot of questions that came through, and Tom, since you started, I think you should carry on because there have been a couple other ones that were specifically for you. Jason was asking, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong list here. Neil was asking, were you always interested in engineering? And then Rachel asked, sorry, following on from that, what has been the most challenging part for you so far?
So with regard, have I always been interested in engineering? Yes, to put it simply, I have. Since I've been a kid, my dad's been taking me motocrossing, which is where I sort of found my love for engines. I was always underneath the motocross bike fixing it when I was racing, and then also when I was about 13, my dad got a fishing boat on the River Tyne, a 30-foot fishing boat, and of course that's got an engine in it. And yeah, I've always had a fascination for engines. But yes, most challenging part again. To be perfectly honest, if you put the work in, which you have to, there isn't really anything massively challenging. And imagine if you were maybe seasick, that might be challenging for the first sort of 2 weeks. But again, if that's something you're worried about, I do know quite a few people who were seasick, and it does pass. It's something that comes and it goes. So I wouldn't worry about anything like that. But yeah.
Great. Well, I'm going to sort of go through some of the questions now in order, in kind of same sort of themes. And Steve, I think maybe we'll start with what do you think of the Neil asked, what are the main skills you need to become an engineer officer? Microphone.
Okay, I'll start again. Sorry about that. Okay, to start with, as a officer trainee, it's the academics that's required to be able to go on the course in the first place. I think Tom will agree that with the workshop training happening before you get on the ships, the introduction to engineering at the college is a good basis for anyone then to go onto the ship. You're not expecting, when you go on the ship in the first phase, your shadow in the main qualified engineers, and they'll be showing you what to do. So it's very much, to start with, very much an apprenticeship style training. Look, learn, and then do it yourself. Would you agree with that, Tom?
Yes, I would, in the sense that you're not going to be told to do something that you can't do, of course. But again, as I said before, yeah, if you're willing to get stuck in, they're perfectly happy to let you help.
Yeah, and it is about helping, and they won't let you do anything that's not safe. Safety is the main aspect of any of the training at the college and when you're on a ship, for obvious reasons. So you don't have to be like Tom, who, when I met him, he was under motorbikes, under cars, under boats. He came to the interview with an engineer in his hands, showing me this engine he built. No, I'm only joking, he didn't. But, you know, you just knew if you snapped him in half, he would have engineer written around his ribs. But you don't have to be like that. If you've got the interest in engineering, and it does, you know, take interests in different manners, and it doesn't always have to be the practical. If you like the theory of it all, then the cadetship, the officer training, is the start of you becoming a qualified marine engineer, and they're one of the most respected engineers in any industry.
That's really interesting. I would say Andres has been popping up quite a few times in the chat. He's obviously very keen. He's asked, what kind of qualifications do you need to do the electrical work on the ships? Apologies if you went through this in the presentation already. And he does ask about apprenticeships specifically.
Well, we don't get involved in apprenticeship training. It is officer training that we are involved in, okay? And I don't actually know of any ETO apprenticeship schemes. so I can't comment on that. With ETOs, they're expected to have 48 UCAS points as a minimum. And within that 48 UCAS points, you need a maths A-level or equivalent, or in the case of Tom, at the time that I interviewed him, he was taking a BTEC level 3 diploma in engineering. And that same diploma would get you onto an electrical engineering course as well, because it carries UCAS points and it's an engineering based subject. So A-levels or equivalent learning such as BTEC, and BTECs are run in a lot of colleges, but you do need the 48 UCAS points to be able to go on to the foundation degree, ETO or HND course.
Great. I was just about to put a question in the chat, and maybe Tom or you, if you've got it handy. They were asking about where they can find about more information about the course. So perhaps if you've got a link or something somewhere, we can just add that there, and then perhaps I can move on to the next question. Holly was asking, do you have to live near one of the colleges?
No, most of the colleges have halls of residence. One or two don't, but most of them do. And they always, for phase one students, they always leave the halls of residence vacant until they know that phase one students are fully booked in. Somebody like Tom, who lives just beside the college, just round the corner, he didn't have to stay in halls. That was okay by us. But if you're thinking about training, if you live in Manchester and you're thinking about training in Fleetwood, which is probably the nearest college, I would suggest that halls of residence is an option you must consider. I'm very aware that Tom needs to get to college at 2:45.
Right. So, do you any last words you want to say, Tom, before you log off?
No, I believe that's it from me.
Great. Well,
Yes,
I
thank you
think
very
it's
much.
really great that you came, and I think it was really good for young people to see somebody who's on the cutting edge, and have fun at school today. I can see the sun shining.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Tom, thanks very much. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Steve.
Right. Everyone else, don't go away. We'll carry on with a couple more questions. Stacey wants to know what the recruitment and selection process is like, what's involved, and do you have any tips for success?
The application forms is your first point of contact. So it's set out in a manner that it's fill this box. Okay, so as long as you fill the boxes in, you should be okay. Your personal statement about why you want to join the Merchant Navy and where you want to go to sea is the judgment card, if you like. Many people have got the same academics, but what's driving them to become an officer in the Merchant Navy needs to be put in that personal statement. One of my biggest tips is, and I know this is a big draw for the Merchant Navy, is leave travel out of it, out of your personal statement. We know you like travel, you wouldn't be applying. But if you put, I want to join the Merchant Navy to travel and see the world, we see so much of that. And seriously, recruiters do see a huge amount of that it becomes a bit, another one that wants a free holiday. It's more about focus on the career and your research into why you want to join the Merchant Navy. If you type in MNTB into the Google web search bar, that's the Merchant Navy Training Board, you will find quite a lot of interesting articles on the training involved. And if you go onto our website, www.sstg.org, we've actually got case studies. I prefer to call them cadet stories, but you actually get stories of what cadets have been doing. We try to publish one a month for cadets who are in training at the moment, deck officers, engineers and ETOs. So you can get quite a bit off the websites. And from our website, you can go to company websites and learn about what type of shipping to get involved in. So pretty much on the application form question is, you sure you fill all the boxes in, don't leave any empty, because that'll discount you straight away. Think about your personal statement and make it more career minded rather than the travel side of it.
Right, we had a couple of questions about the job specifically. Jason wanted to know what kind of salaries are available once you're qualified, and Rachel wants to know if you get travel allowance, how much travel allowance. But I think she might be referring to if you weren't perhaps staying at college, because you were just saying that you prefer them to be staying, don't you?
Yeah. You don't get any travel allowance backwards and forwards to the colleges, if that's what Sharon's asking, except at the beginning of each phase, when you're at college, phase 1, 3 and 5, and at the end of each phase, because we like to know how cadets are going to get home and get back to the college. Okay. Nice. Travel to the ships will be paid for. You might need to pay for a train fare to go to an airport or a port to catch a ferry, for instance, but you claim that money back for our company expenses. If there's flights involved, they're already booked for you by the companies that you've been sponsored by. When you qualify, you start off as either a third engineer, junior officer, ETO, junior officer, or third officer, deck officer, which is again a junior officer. And the expectation salary is between £25,000 and £28,000 per annum. Mainly, in most companies, it's tax-free. Oh, it all depends what companies you're with, but you will find that the Merchant Navy, and it's again something you can Google yourself, I'm not trying to entice you, most seafarers have their salary paid and they do not pay tax on it because they're working out of the country.
Great. We have a question about life at sea. Andres wanted to know how long you stay on the ships at one time.
Okay, that varies. That's a good question. As a cadet, in total, as a deck officer trainee, you need a minimum 12 months before you can sit the oral exam. So we have to make sure you get 12 months, 2 weeks in. As an ETO or Electro technical officer or an engineer, you do 8 months at sea. You do less because at sea as an engineer, ETO, because you do more workshop skills at college. There's 4 months of workshop skills. Depending on the company, will depend on how long you spend away from home. Now, as a ballpark figure, if you work in the offshore industry, such as ferries, aggregate mining vessels, as they call them. I like to call them aggregate mining vessels, it sounds better. Offshore support and standby, the ships that go out to oil rigs, gas platforms and wind farms. On an average, you will spend 8 weeks at sea and 2 weeks off. 8 weeks at sea, 2 weeks off. And that'll happen through phase 2 and phase 4. If you are opting for the more deep sea worldwide travel, cruise liners, Tom's company, GMS, research vessels, you're looking more at probably doing 4 to 5 months at sea in one hit and then having a month off leave. Now, with SSTG, all the member companies that I represent, we pay the allowance, as I say, they vary from company to company, but we pay the allowance while you're at college, when you're at sea, and when you're on leave. So your leave is paid. Rule of thumb, offshore work, 8 weeks, 2 weeks off, and worldwide travel, 4 to 5 months away with a month off.
Right. And Hugh was asking some quite specific question, but I actually think it's quite interesting. It sounds like he might have been in the Royal Navy engineer. And I think he said specifically a marine engineer. If you have had experience like that, what impact does that have with joining?
My recommendation would be to contact one of the nautical colleges, the nearest one to you. So Warsash is in Southampton, Glasgow is obvious, Fleetwood, Blackpool area, Liverpool, and South Tyneside in Newcastle. I would contact one of the four main colleges, which I've just mentioned, the four main ones, okay, what they call a letter of initial assessment, LIA, so it's abbreviated to, and you put down your experience, you put down your academics, if you've been involved in the Royal Navy, or you've got a BSc in engineering, a BN, sorry, in engineering. If you put all that down in the form, contact the college, they will ask you to write down all your experiences. They will actually scrutinise your experience up to date, and then contact you to tell you whether you can have exemptions. Now, exemptions means it shortens the course considerably. So someone with a BEng in engineering will probably shave off over a year to 15 months of training as an engineer, because they've already done quite a lot of the curriculum, but they've still got to go to sea. I'm not, a bit of a bone of contention at the moment. Royal Navy sea time doesn't necessarily count for sea time in the Merchant Navy at the moment, but it is under hot discussion as we speak.
Great. So finally, one last question. Again, this is quite a off-piece but interesting one, and I'd be interested to know as well. James wanted to know, with the introduction of AI, what does that mean on cargo ships? Will there be fewer in the next 10 years, or will these become more automated?
It's a good question, and it's been spoken about as we are talking. There's different trains of thoughts on this. It's never going to happen, because I'm not going to let my ship out there without crew on. But I think we're realistic. I think crews will get smaller, but more refined. And the training for this is yet to come, but I know the Merchant Navy Training Board are talking about it. It's normally brought up on a monthly basis. There is ships that are being tested as we speak, but no one at this present moment is putting any cargo on it and saying off it goes, and we'll steer it from home on an Xbox. So it's how quick the technology moves forward, and I think probably in the next 15 to 20 years there will be vessels out there, but they're always going to be crew members, because you can take a vessel out to an oil rig or a wind farm, but without the engineers on board it, the wind farm is going to be useless.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
I think that's.
I think it's a thing that we will still work side by side. It's just another age of computerization.
It is. I think this has come across in all of our conversations with all sorts of sectors about AI. I think AI will do some, maybe more of the grunt work, but you still need human decision making and other elements to sort things out.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Sorry, absolutely. I mean, you can't teach a ship what a captain knows.
Exactly. Brilliant. Well, we've had some really, really interesting questions today, and thank you everyone for joining us. Before we and I witter on at this last farewell, you might want to scroll through. We've put some links in the chat that you might want to open now. As I said repeatedly, the session is being recorded, but it probably won't be uploaded until next week. So if there's anything that you saw that you want to see now, like I put in the link to the video for the SSTG cadet training video, you obviously can go to their website. Anything else, you might want to link on there now. But thank you very much again for joining us. I'm Sharon Walpole from Career Map. I hope you'll join us for our future events. In the meantime, thank you very much. Steve?
Thanks very much, everybody, for attending, and thanks for the good questions that we've received. Thank you very much. I look forward to your applications.
Yeah, brilliant. You'll have to let me know how everyone gets on. Thanks, everyone. Signing off.